Things are getting dark in this Roll for Crit preview of Goetia, 9 Kings of Solomon. In this game, you are vying for power from the 9 Demon Kings, trying to gain their attention, and whoever gets the most attention and power will be the winner. To do that, this will be a worker placement. However, there's a slight twist because the world will be changing as the game progresses.
Yes, things are going to be moving around. Some different options will be available to you as the game continues. You're going to start with a few little workers, and then as the game goes on, of course, there may be opportunities for you to get more of those. On your turn, you will place one of your followers onto one of the hexes that's available on the board. Your reward will be resource cubes that are showing in that hex. So for example, if you put one over here, you would get 1 brown resource cube for your collection. If you put one over here, you'd get 2 blue cubes. You'll also notice that some of these hexes are linked together while some stand alone. The standalone ones, those followers will return to you at the end of the round. Whereas if you put them on a linked hex, then you're not going to get that back unless you or another player also fills up the other space. So in some cases, that could hold your followers out on the board for a while, so you have to make sure that you're really sure you want those rewards. You're also going to see that some of these spaces have this fire type pattern on them. That indicates that you must pay a cost to go there. So it depends on where these cards are positioned and what's in them as to what that cost will be. In this instance, this will get you an extra worker. So let's say you put a guy here, you would have to pay first 1 attention. That's the currency of the game. Essentially, it's attention from those demons. And then you also have to pay 1 of each cube, each colored resource that is showing in that row or column facing that card. Now, there's a few things that can tweak that. For example, this meeple is covering up this space, which means that you don't have to worry about paying that particular cost. There's also some things up here where this shows a blacked out cube or a crossed out cube. You can also ignore 1 additional cube of your choice, and that will also take place next time if someone else takes one of these, then you can cross out 2 of those cubes. Then you can see there are the scry boards over here on this side, and those also have a linked section, so the linked rules apply there as well, though sometimes they have different ones that aren't linked. Those often will give you greater rewards, but you need to pay 1 cube of the color of the card closest to it, so in this case a pink or a blue. If you've got 1 or more followers located on these scribe boards at the end of each round, you will be able to get some of the attention that is building up over there. That's valuable because, of course, you can use it to pay for new workers. It also counts as victory points at the end of the game.
After everyone places your workers, this is when a lot more is going to happen. First off, we're going to look at this demon here. If you placed a worker here, you will get access to his cards. You'll get to pick in turn order, so the green player would go first. If there's anyone afterwards, they get a card, and you'll get to add it to your personal pile here. So we'll just put that there. When this pile empties, he will go away, and the board will look like this, where pretty much you have another very strong ability. It just costs a lot, as you have to pay everything that is showing. Now, those small cards are very nice because, 1, they could give passive effects, a new special ability just for you to place one of your followers, but they also give victory points, so they're going to help out a lot. After dealing with demon cards, you're going to then deal with the scry boards. As Jonathan stated earlier, each meeple that is there will get 1 scry there. If the board empties, all meeples will return to their owners, and the scrying now becomes a dark board, which summons a demon. You'll actually take the closest card, flip it over, and choose to cover one of the 2 costs. So let's say we do it like that. These will shift over, and then you'll flip one of these white cards. Pretty much they allow the cost to change. Now, some cards, as we stated before, may flip, whether it's the scribe boards becoming dark boards, some of these cards becoming demons. If you have a worker there like this orange one and it was to be flipped, it would return to its owner regardless of where it was in the card. In addition, one of the big things are these cards here. If they flip, such as all the workers being removed, they allow you to get pack cards. And this actually gets to the next phase when we look at how the game will end. Either A, there's only a certain number of pack cards left equal to the number of players, or B, someone just happens to get 4 pack cards because they're really going at it. That will trigger the end game, and you're going to count up these points. The pack cards in particular could give a lot of points because the way they work is they're sort of like end game goals, such as point for each follower you have, point for each red card you have, something like that. Should you get more than 4 of these small cards, you have to cover up one of them, and you lose all abilities on that card. So you want to be really careful with what cards you cover up.
Those packed cards are pretty expensive. They're going to cost 4 black cubes, which are probably the rarest resource cube in the game, plus, again, whatever is showing in that particular row or column. And you also have to, again, flip these over, which is going to take a while because you have to pay for all the workers that are there. So it's really not until late game that you're going to be purchasing those. But you do probably want to look at them early on because you might see one that you think you want to try to go for that could significantly alter your strategy. And sometimes there are cards that may directly affect you one way or the other. So for instance, there's one that gives you points for every worker you didn't recruit. So you might try to do that early on and recruit fewer followers, but then that might hurt you in the end if somebody else gets that card first. So there's definitely a race aspect to a lot of this, and that, obviously like any worker placement game, you want to try to get a spot that you think someone else is going to take. But then there's even more going on because, like we said, if I take this spot, that makes this option cheaper for someone else. So maybe I don't want to do that until later in the round, something like that.
Exactly. In fact, you may want to look at those packs, and this is those times when you actually see what your opponent's doing. Let's say someone is trying to go for most workers, because that's a pretty easy one to spot. If it's in this lineup and they have if they don't have any pink cubes, if you put here, sure, you might need pink cubes for something else, but you just made that really easy for them to buy. Especially if, you might accidentally not realize you've lined up the entire cost. So,
yeah.
And the way the world shifts, let's put this card earlier, this was very expensive, a lot of blue cubes. But as soon as this demon flips and this moves over, that just dropped 2 blue cubes, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. So the cost can really change, and sometimes even especially late game, there can be some super cheap options, and you do have to pay attention to what color cubes do my opponents have, and how am I managing that, because that's important. So there's definitely a fair amount of interaction between players. Sometimes worker placement games can be a little more solitary, but I think this has a lot of that. Also with competing for getting first come, first serve to want to get the first of these cards, which can be extremely powerful.
There was one that was first come to the demon cards, which is actually really scary, because that means regardless of turn order, you are going to get first pick. So if there's a strong card in here and you know it, you can still get that nice reward that would technically be for last pick, but you'll still get it.
Yeah. A lot of those, you don't have any specific player powers, but that's basically what these cards will do. They'll give you those personalized powers.
Now, one of the things you may have noticed, and it was very fun for us to realize, is this takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, that's true.
Because cards will keep flipping up. These tiles will keep moving up to 3. I don't even know if the camera can still see it anymore.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you got a big old table to play this one. Another thing that I think is interesting is that these resource cubes are limited. So once they run out, if you get more, you'll actually take it from the player who has the most cubes currently.
No hoarding in this game.
Yeah, so that's also a factor to consider. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. If you like the worker placement genre, this is one that adds a lot more stuff you got to take into account, other than just where do I want to place. Sometimes it's which row do I want to place and who else is going there, all those things we talked about before. So if that sounds cool to you, you can check it out. It's going to be on Kickstarter right now. It's called Goetia 9 Kings of Solomon, and there's a link in the description down below, so you can take a look for yourself, see if you want to decide to back it. If you like worker placement games, or if you just like demons, maybe you can try to worship some demons.
Some nice art there.
Yeah, some cool creepy demons in this game.
And don't forget the skull.
Oh yeah, I mean this is the first player marker right here. Very, very demonic. Don't show this to your religious mother, who will maybe not allow it in the house. I don't know, like Dungeons and Dragons back in the 70s.
Take a look. Let us know what your thoughts on this are down below in the comments. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been a Roll for Crit preview.
Hey, go ahead, like and subscribe, and support our Patreon for even more board game content.
Support us now to hear the audio expansion, where you can hear all the other nerdy things we've been up to.